this groove, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to Cypherfics. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the 8th part of, What If Issei, Rias meet BROLY. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Liquid's wrath on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Wait, are you intending on making him the next dash? Kuroka was cut off. Your thoughts are on a plane that not even mortals would dare ask in front of me, but to answer your question, it's all up to him if he so wishes. The title of God of Destruction is a title that needs to be fulfilled to the fullest because being a destroyer just doesn't mean being the most powerful or the most feared, it is meant to be what it sounds like. BROLY doesn't have that destructive nature like I do, but if he so desired, he could take that title away from me and become the new God of Destruction. Shiva explained to them. Hearing this made the two of them look over at BROLY. Biko knew that he was strong after watching the fight, but hearing from Shiva himself that BROLY has the potential to take the title away from him didn't sit well with him. It made his stomach crawl from thinking that another person entirely is stronger than Shiva himself. A mortal possessing power equal or greater to Shiva made this worse than it already was. Kuroka, we need to leave. It would seem that Lord Shiva has just made his presence known and announced his territory. Biko said. Shiva smiled before replying to them. There is no need to run away, I don't mind if the two of you are here. Besides, we won't be staying long because we have some other business to attend to. I know you sensed it as well, Shiva. There are major players in this region, so what happens when a Satan or high-class devil comes our way? You don't want to start a conflict with the other factions, but sooner or later, they will come for the boy. Surzex and his little band of misfit Satans are going to do something that will hinder us. Indra spoke. Shiva raised a finger to his mouth as he entered his own thought process. This is going to be risky because we know that the other factions are going to try and force BROLY to align himself with them. It's practically going to be a power struggle, but they have yet to realize that a bigger threat is going to appear in this world. That is why we need BROLY to be ready by the time they arrive. Shiva said. Indra didn't like this back and forth stuff, he was getting impatient. The boy is something else, I'll admit that, but if bastards like Rias take hold of him, who knows what will happen. I'll trust you, for now, Shiva, so what do you have in mind? Kuroka raised a brow. She was getting more and more interested in BROLY after hearing how much Shiva respects him. A destroyer god wanting to ward off everyone from getting their hands on his disciple just made her want to break all sorts of rules to see the life he lives. Hearing that he has the potential to take Shiva's title, her thoughts drifted further away from Valian towards the new hot thing that was RSNG her curiosity. This world is in grave danger from what I have seen. A planet filled with life completely wiped away from the bane of existence like God himself decided to purge the world he created. I might have to have Brahma and Vishnu come and assist us. Shiva spoke honestly. Indra looked over at him in a quick reaction after hearing that he plans on retrieving Brahma the god of creation and Vishnu the god of protection as the entire Trimurti gods would come and help out a boy that he himself doesn't even fully know and understand. He looked over at BROLY as he squinted his eyes to try and see what Shiva sees in him. Other than the strength he has displayed, nothing else came to mind. Biko stepped up to say something. Lord Shiva, are you planning to try and have the other two Trimurti gods back up your disciple? Biko asked as sweat rolled down the side of his face. Shiva's expression and presence changed drastically as his eyes pierced Biko's soul while his power deluged beyond the naked eye could see. Do you have a problem with this, Biko? And no. The minute he responded with that made Shiva's mood return to that of being carefree and laid back. If you don't mind me asking. Kuroka raised her hand while trying to maintain her posture. What is this threat you're talking about? I don't have time to explain right now, so you'll just have to wait. In the meantime, Indra, I want you to take BROLY back to the house and gather up all of our stuff. Don't forget to bring the fallen angels as well. Once you're done with that, meet me at Mount Kailash. Indra let out a small growl before agreeing. Let's go, boy. He said as he bumped his shoulder against his before walking out the door. BROLY just ignored him as he just followed right behind him back to the house. Shiva was about to leave before Kuroka called out to him. Lord Shiva, can you at least tell us what's so special about BROLY? Who is he? From the time me joining the devils and to the time of knowing most of the supernatural world, I have never seen or heard of the great god of destruction taking in someone under his wing. So I ask you once again, what's so special about him? If this was any other time, I would have eviscerated you on the spot because your Chaos Brigade members don't hold a spot in this world within my eyes. But to be honest, you have a role to play in the future. I can't tell you what, so you will need to figure that out on your own. All I can tell you is that you're fated to be in BROLY's path, either to be an enemy of him or to be an ally of him. No matter how much you want to disagree or avoid it, the path you choose will become the fated destiny that has written itself. Play a part in his life. What do you mean by that? What do he and I have that is so significant? She asked frantically. As I said before, that is for you to find out. You're going to have a choice in the future that will have a major impact that decides your future and his. You have to choose the options that have presented themselves to you when the time comes. The choices you choose will become the outcome of your future and the part that will connect your destiny with his. It's odd how the fates of others create such turmoil. If the heavens themselves have written it, then it too must be written here on earth. Shiva turned around before vanishing on the spot. I'm left with more questions than answers. Biko, do you have any idea of what he meant? She asked. I don't know, but if Shiva says something is going to happen, then it will happen. Naya, you know a lot about him. I only heard rumors and stories about his greatest hits, but you seem to know quite a bit about him. Lord Shiva is someone that everyone fears because of the profound limitless knowledge he holds along with his unmeasurable power that backs up his claims. When you looked into his eyes, I know you felt a chill run down your back. Lord Shiva has destroyed an entire nation once because he just felt like it. He walks on the plains of the primordial realms alongside Lord Brahma and Vishnu. Kuroka raised a brow while thinking about this whole situation. If Shiva is that strong, then didn't he say that BROLY could take away his title? Open up your mind a bit, Kuroka. If Lord Shiva has someone who has the ability to surpass him and take his job, then wouldn't that mean that the Hindu gods just found someone that even surpasses all the Saiyans? The Hindu pantheon is much more powerful now if the Trimurti gods and BROLY are working together. The heavenly dragons are no match for him nor the Saiyans. Sooner or later, not even Ophis or Great Red might be able to stop them. This is going to be a problem in the future if we don't do something to counter this. Biko explained. Her eyes skyrocketed wide open. Biko continued. We have to go back and explain this to Ophis. Valley and the Red Dragon Emperor are going to have a problem when all this hits the fan. Your sister could be a casualty in this battle if we don't stop what the Hindu gods are doing. But how do we even do that? She asked. Indra and Shiva aren't on good terms, so we could use that to our advantage to get them to battle each other. This is getting too complicated for my own good, Kuroka complained. Then we better go and finish our task before something else comes up and holds us back. All I know is that Ophis isn't going to like this one bit. Naya, are you seriously worried about that? Didn't you hear what they said? The other factions might start a global conflict throughout all the realms for BROLY. Doesn't that say a lot of things, because if every faction wants a piece of him, then isn't that going to be a tad bit troublesome? Besides, Shiva said something about civilization being wiped from existence as if it never existed. Who knows what that man was talking about? Everything seems to be a mystery for him. Biko looked at her eyes to see that same look she usually has when something fascinating has interested her. No way. Forget it, Kuroka. I know that DMN look. Valley is going to get irritated if we go and chase after information on that kid than completing our mission. Oh, come on. We have to do something to stay ahead of the game. We need to figure out just what is so special about Shiva's disciple and understand more about this threat. Hey! You're gonna break a bunch of protocols if you do this. This isn't a simple mission like the others we have done because this little curiosity that got you completely hooked will come back at you in ways you never speculated. Have you never heard of the phrase curiosity killed the cat? This is just suicide on your part. Naya, something just doesn't smell right. Why were Shiva and Indra here in the first place? They had to have something going on here, so we have to find out every last bit of evidence on what is going on between them. We can just tell Vala that something came up. She said. Biko shook his head in disbelief. Fantastic, simply fantastic. Scene break. In the far open plains of Japan, a large standing pillar that was above the clouds was holding up a structure. Standing at the top, a man was on the edge of the large structure whilst looking out into the far distance with a troubled face. The pain that was being expressed across his face didn't sit well with his friend as he noticed the pain in his eyes. Something is troubling you, please, speak your mind, Kami. What dark thoughts are plaguing your mind? Mr. Popo asked with an inquisitive expression. Mr. Popo, my good friend. These years of staying with you have brightened my life as no day was too dull. Now, after looking over this world for so many years, I picked up a puzzling danger, a danger that far surpasses the evil of this world that has been produced over the centuries. This foreboding feeling that is dwelling within my soul and mind is cold. Colder than a winter's night of unjustified agony and sorrow. This whole entire world filled with extravagant minds and talent that further ignites a spark within them to break the constraints on their minds by trying to unlock the secrets of human potential to the fullest. Kami remarked. Do you know what type of danger it is? I'm not exactly sure, but an abomination of evil will plague this world and the universe entirely if we don't stop it. I have supervised this world and witnessed plagues, wars, sicknesses, and other hideous deeds that humans have done for the sake of power, greed, lust, and even for God. None of them, not a single one can be praised for righteousness since all they seek is ways to further expand their self-indulgence. All of them aren't competent to rise to the stand against this danger that is soon to come. Besides, they lack vision as I have witnessed other gods in this world enslave, slaughter, and obliterate all kinds of life because they just enjoy the thrill of it. Kami groused with pain. Kami. This planet is just a spinning ball filled with people who have lost their way. Gods and dragons that mindlessly do whatever they want to pursue their dreams of conquest. Kami clenched the wooden staff in his hand. I'll tell you one thing though, Mr. Popo. These Dragon Ball that we're protecting will not be handed for you since all they think about is immortality, gluttony, and concupiscence. Who knows what this world's people will do with such power in their hands? The fragments of reality itself could be shattered if power were to corrupt their minds. A gust of wind came billowing out of the blue as a strong well-mannered presence was hovering behind them. You're right. Locking those magical wish-granting artifacts would be a fantastic idea just in case anyone tries and dares to misuse those sacred artifacts. A rough low-toned voice called out. Both Kami and Mr. Popo turned around to see a well-dressed mature man that looked approximately in his mid-30s walking towards them. His dark-colored red hair was well combed back on one side whilst the other side of his hair had multiple bangs reaching down to his eyes short. He retained a stubbled beard that looked well maintained. How long has it been, old-timer? 10, 50, hundreds of years. I seem to have lost count with being MIA from this world. the man said before stopping in front of them with a shh-eating grin. Kami narrowed his eyes. Great Red. What brings you here? Don't you have your own place that you need to protect? Will you calm down a bit, old-timer? I didn't come here to pick a fight or do anything of that matter. I'm only here to talk, nothing more. Red clarified while heading over to Kami's side before taking a good glance out towards the highlands. Speak your mind then, Kami said. Over the years, I've come to respect you, and shortly after, view you as an entity I deem worthy of truly holding the title of deity or god. It came to my attention that there is a boy that is not human, devil, angel, fallen angel, or a god at that matter. He isn't even from this planet, to begin with. I'm quite sure you felt his strength at least once. Red explained. Yes, I have. He holds remarkable combat prowess and abilities that far exceeded my expectations. Where are you trying to get at with this? Don't you think it's quite odd that a particular god took notice of him? If I am to drop a name, I would assume you know the Hindu god that is regarded as the god of destruction. One of the Trimurti gods, Shiva. Mind you, a being so powerful that if I were to be removed from the board along Ophis and Trihexa, he would be at the top of the list when it comes to the world's strongest has taken an interest in this boy. Even taking him underneath his wing, which is now Shiva's disciple. Whatever Shiva is spinning up, you better just keep out of his way. Like what? I have been doing for the past 300 years. Red let out a sigh. Yep, pretty much. If you came here to tell us this big piece of news, then why don't you go and deal with that? Mr. Popo asked. Now this is where things get interesting. I would love to go and check out Shiva's disciple, but if I keep the dimensional gap unchecked while I'm gone for too long, Ophis and her dropouts of unsocialized bags of shits will most likely, will take that chance to claim the gap for herself. Once Chaos Brigade establishes control over that, then they will eventually find their way to and use those artifacts that you have stored away. I'm too DMN lazy to lift a finger against her, so you'll have to find someone else to do that for you. Red gave his cheek a good scratch whilst explaining the dangers of leaving his post for too long. Mr. Popo looked troubled after hearing that. I see. Both Red and Kami kept their focus towards the highlands as the wind gently breezed past them. Even within all this chaos that the world is going through, along with people who are pledging themselves to the devils and angels to fight another possible war, the feeling of being a guardian over this world has its perks and kinks. But not being able to really interfere with the outside world was a downfall for him, as this was a request from Great Red himself. He understood that he was trying to keep him safe and hidden away from the dangers of the supernatural world, but being locked up for so long has made things difficult for him. All kinds of evil have risen from the ashes that stained the soils of earth. It was a pain he had to go through throughout the years of being in isolation with Mr. Popo due to other entities like Satans, archangels, and gods that roamed this world that held the abilities to taint the world in their own way if they ever find out what he was protecting from the outside world. Those long years of being isolated from the outside world were coming to an end when Great Red learned of his existence not long after. At first, he couldn't trust the man because seeing someone reach the top of the lookout was just plainly impossible for any human to climb. It was then that the man revealed his true self to him and everything else that came with him, in which they began to cultivate a friendly relationship. Kami and Red, who are both guardians of their respective territories, held incredible wisdom and power. A dragon that was the embodiment of dreams, and a Namekian that was guardian and keeper of the Dragon Ball that held power to dominate the galaxy if anyone so wished. Revealing the secrets of Shenron and his own importance to Red that made him bewildered after discovering that a dragon of such stature held that much power that even outranked him, he had to shield him and the artifacts from being exposed to the world. The two of them agreed on Kami to protect the Dragon Ball from everyone, in which Great Red cloaked them within his magic from anyone finding out what they were protecting. I haven't really thanked you after all the years you have helped me, Mr. Popo, Kami said with a small smile. There is no need to thank me, I am doing what I am supposed to be doing. If Chaos Brigade were to get their hands on those artifacts, then the world you are desperately trying to protect would be turned to ruins if power like that was to be given to anyone who held selfishness, control, or domination in their minds. Red explained. If you're that worried, then why don't you take them? Where would I even keep them? Besides, that's your job. God. Red said before opening up the dimensional gap and leaving the both of them in silence. Scene break. Back at the house, BROLY along with everyone else collected their belongings before Indra teleported them all to Mount Kailash, where they stood in front of a colossal palace with the sky that was both night and day. The sky held thousands of stars all around them that were all so close to one another. The cosmos above them held multiple appealing nebulas that relaxed the mind if anyone were to stare at the sky above. There were small planetoids while the ground around them looked completely majestic. Rainier, Calawarner, and Middlet were blindsided by the sheer beauty and atmosphere of the place. They knew of heaven and the astonishing creations that God himself created, but seeing a realm that is specifically for a destroyer god was entirely on a whole other plane. They thought it was strange as well that a god that is titled the God of Destruction resided in such a place that didn't look like it belonged to a god of destruction. BROLY was entranced as well by all this new stuff he was experiencing. His curiosity got the best of him as he began to explore. Penemu followed him to make sure he wouldn't get lost, but she admitted to herself that it was mostly to enjoy his company. Gazing at him, Penemu was seeing that same little boy she has nurtured and protected like it was her child. With him being an adult now, she was seeing more than just that little boy. He grew up to be a fine young man that surpassed Azazel and even Valley. From being a cute young boy to a mature good-looking man, she was proud of the man he came out to be. He noticed that Penemu was looking at him, so he returned the same look she was giving him. "Is there something on my face?" he asked. "Oh. Sorry. I didn't mean to stare at you. I was just remembering the past since so much has happened when you lived with us. Now, look at you, all grown up that is forging his own path to become even greater. I just can't seem to look away no matter how strong I try." Penemu closed the gap distance as her melons pressed up against his abdomen. Signals were being sent from his brain throughout his whole body when the feeling of her body was pressing up against his. He wanted to explore these feelings with her until they no longer could explore anymore. Being a little NTMT with the woman he truly cared for, he was able to see in the corner of his eyes the other three fallen angels staring at him with jealous expressions. "Hey, Penemu!" BROLY called out. "Yes. I know this may not be the right time to say this, but when the time comes for me to take my revenge against Frieza, could you promise me one thing?" he said as he wrapped his arms around her to pull her as close as possible towards him. Penemu's eyes shifted wide when she heard his words, and the tightening of his embrace he was giving her. The way he sounded along with the way he acted felt more like a goodbye kind of hug and speech to her. Her arms flew around his back and returned the hug with all her strength. "I'm not going to promise you anything. Don't talk like you're going to leave us forever because I'm not going to allow that," she said while sinking her head into his abdomen. BROLY softened his eyes when hearing how soft her voice was, that it was borderline broken, like he somehow shattered her heart into a million pieces. "Please don't cry. You know the danger he is capable of. If I don't stop him, then he could even kill." She felt his embrace tighten around her. "Listen, BROLY. I understand that you're not from this planet. You hold no actual affairs in this world. Your mother, father, and your whole race was destroyed because of him. You seek vengeance for what he did to you, your family, and your race, but you are the only one that I cannot afford to lose no matter the cost. That is why I'm not going to promise you anything, because you're going to stay here with me. Azazel, Barakiel, and those fallen angels in front of you. You were sent to this planet for a reason since your race was extinguished. That reason is to live. To live on and forge your own path. I know. To live on and get revenge for what he has d-. Enough. I don't want to hear it. She released all her worry and discomfort that was locked away inside. She couldn't see him go through that pain again, she wouldn't allow that pain to resurface for him. BROLY was her lifeline ever since he was only a boy. If she had to claw her hands inside of him from leaving, she would do so even if it means locking the both of them away just to see him not get killed. Penemu. Let's talk about this matter later. Right now, just let me stay like this for a few more minutes. BROLY didn't reply as he spoiled her a little. Indra looked over at the two sharing a moment. This made him clench his teeth at the sight of a warrior like him that held unimaginable power that not even the human eye could perceive with their mundane existence. It pissed him off to see how gentle a man like him that had the heart of a warrior could shrug off his own power like it was dirt, but the thing that really annoyed him was the fact that fallen angels entered a very sacred holy ground that was reserved for the gods. He had to admit that Shiva was getting a bit soft. It infuriated him knowing that a boy beat him, as it was a first for anyone to actually beat him that badly. He would have given him the respect he deserved after throwing blows, but seeing how he is throwing away his potential and hearing he could take over the mantle of Shiva's job was the final straw that threw him over the railing. Hey, boy. Don't you think that's enough? Showing that much love will become your ultimate weakness in battle because your opponent will gladly exploit that factor and take control of that weakness just to show you despair. Indra appeared right in front of him that made BROLY push Penemu out of the way to block his punch that sent out a gust of wind from the sheer intensity of his punch. BROLY didn't like that as he threw his fist right at Indra where it connected with his face that pushed him quite a bit back. Indra gave a toothy grin at that attack before responding with another attack as lightning swirled around his fist, but before he could truly return the favor, a pillar of light appeared in front of them where three figures stood side by side with each other. Would you look at that, always starting something, aren't you, Indra? Vishnu announced by making his presence known to everyone around them. With Shiva hovering over you, I thought you would still restrain yourself. Looks like you're always wanting to do something. Brahma said as holy light radiated off of him. Yes. That seems to be the case. Shiva said with his eyes narrowed. Indra calmed his fighting spirit down after seeing the three Trimurti gods in the vicinity. They were gods not to be messed with individually since they were well respected among the countless pantheons due to their profound abilities, but when all three were together, it was like staring into the brightest stars in the cosmos as the heavens themselves were staring right back at you. Rainier, Kalawarner, and Middlet were all stiff just from their presence alone. Three major gods standing before them were enough to take the wind out of them. Penemu had enough courage to walk up and bow before them in respect. Brahma and Vishnu looked over at BROLY and the fallen angels that held terrified expressions before Brahma and Vishnu moved over to BROLY's spot. This must be the warrior that Shiva took underneath his wing, Vishnu said as he walked around him to get an assessment of him. Brahma did the same thing while trying to figure out the true battle power he possessed. Shiva, you said that he could even take over your mantle if he truly tried, correct? Vishnu asked. That is correct. Not even the four Satans could defeat him if he were to get serious. His heart is pure and holds no detestable feelings towards anyone except for one person that is not a part of Earth. If it wasn't for Azazel, Penemu, and Barakiel properly raising him to the man he is now, I'm afraid to say that he would have obliterated Earth and its inhabitants from his rage alone. Shiva explained. That's so. I was pretty surprised to hear that you took on a disciple. But to see that the man you took under your wing is terrifyingly that powerful that even the mighty Shiva could be swept underneath the rug like some ant, I had to agree to come with. Brahma critiqued while staring at BROLY. With that being said, I want to test his power, Vishnu requested. I do too. Brahma jumped in. Shiva looked over at BROLY. Do you want to fight them? I will understand if you don't want to be dash. He was cut off. I would like to, sir. If I can't control my power, then what good am I when I need to protect someone and I can't use my power to the fullest? If I have to break every bone in my body just to control my primal side's abilities, then so be it. Frieza is plausibly getting closer to Earth, and I can't afford to be afraid of my other side when the time comes for me to battle him. Shiva closed his eyes and smiled at his response. If that is your wish, then I too will join Vishnu and Brahma in this skirmish. I do hope you know what this means for you. You have ascended to the realms that any mortal would love to achieve. Having I, Vishnu, and Brahma test you is one of the greatest gifts we can provide to anyone, so step forward into the light where all your worries and fears can fade to dust. Shiva said with a big smile forming. Listen here, don't hold back whatsoever. Use your primal instincts and fight like it's the last fight you're ever going to fight. Vishnu said. That's right. If Shiva said that you can take over his job if you so desired, then I too want to see just how a mere mortal like yourself can make the god of destruction put such high regards for a man like yourself. Brahma added on. The fallen angels and Indra backed away from the four of them as they put a safe distance between them. Shiva, Brahma, and Vishnu constructed a magic barrier around them where they could go all out without a single worry. The moment the barrier went up, the three of them all unleashed their devastating aura that pummeled the ground to smithereens, which made the ground shake uncontrollably. This was a first for BROLY, as he never felt anything like this in his life. Gods that held power that could bend this world to their wills if they so desired. BROLY closed his eyes and took a deep breath before exhaling. His eyes opening wide open, he instantly appeared in front of Vishnu, where he threw his fist right to his thorax. Vishnu was impressed by his miraculous speed. He had to respond quickly, so he conjured up a shield that cracked as soon as BROLY's fist connected with it. Brahma took this opportunity to aid Vishnu by directing his foot right to his oblique, to which he responded with a growl. Shiva shifted his entire body to appear in front of him before slamming his fist right on his cheek. BROLY used his willpower to stand his ground until he swung his fist to the side of him to get Brahma off of him for a second, but Brahma anticipated this, so he smacked his arm away before driving his elbow to his face. BROLY yelled out in pain, but Vishnu took this chance to drive his fist right into his gut that made him clench his face up. Shiva ducked down to kick him up into the air as his feet made contact with him that sent him soaring through the sky. Soon after, Brahma and Vishnu took flight as well, where they began to pinball BROLY back and forth with each other with harsh and earth-shattering blows. BROLY wasn't having it before he began to power up until driving his whole foot right into Vishnu's gut. His attention quickly shifted as he flew towards Brahma, where he grabbed his head and drove his knee right into his face. Brahma's whole body whipped back after receiving that attack. The favor was quickly returned by Vishnu as he slapped his hands together until he started to pull his hands apart to reveal a magic ball filled with devastating power. He unleashed an enormous ball straight at him that caused BROLY to catch the attack that was making him struggle to push back. Brahma recovered from that brute force of a knee before taking the moment to assess the situation. He darted with hypersonic speed to drive his foot right in his back that caused him to release the ball he was holding. The gigantic ball pushed him down to the ground until they both made contact as the ball exploded into multi-different colors that created a bright flash of light that blinded the onlookers. Shiva took the chance to unleash more of his energy to the point where his eyes began to glow profusely. Both Brahma and Vishnu moved their hands to the front of their face where they created a hand sign. The god of destruction clenched his fist and flung it forward, where he quickly opened it up, where a colossal-sized beam emission was shot out that tore the area apart as the beam was beaming closer and closer to BROLY. The Saiyan used all of his power to hold back the attack. His ki was starting to shift while his anger was rising and rising that made his eyes turn yellow. He screamed out that made his ki turn from white to green. Brahma and Vishnu moved their hands outward until a colossal beam emission shot out of their hands as well, which was too much for the Saiyan to hold back. All three attacks exploded, shattering the ground beneath them to absolute nothingness. BROLY! Penemu screamed out as her face looked like she has seen a ghost. All three Trimurti gods floated side by side while peering down at the explosion site they manifested. Don't tell me this all you can muster up. I thought you were an almighty, terrifying, ruthless warrior. Vishnu said. Brahma felt a gust of pity wash over him. I don't know what you see in him, Shiva. Although he has tremendous willpower to withstand all three of us for some time already proves to me that he is worth something. I have to give you props for finding someone of this caliber to hold on his own, but to be honest, I'm not seeing the same thing you're seeing, old friend, Brahma said. Shiva smiled at that. I think the warm-up is finally over. The real battle will commence now. Warm-up? Brahma questioned. Oh, yes. I told you that he has the power to take over the title of God of Destruction if he so desired, so I will show you just what monstrosity we have awakened. Shiva felt a droplet of sweat slide down his cheek. The sheer amount of respect he held was causing his mouth to transform into a smile which was beginning to reveal the real self that he tends to keep in check when around others. It was finally time for him to dive into the true God of Destruction that was unbearable to contain. The smoke cleared up to reveal BROLY standing in the same spot with battle damage all over his body. The towel that was wrapped around his waist was gone, which revealed his saiyan monkey tail. Brahma and Vishnu enlarged their eyes in mere hysteria to see he was hiding a monkey tail all this time. Oi, Shiva. Would you care to explain to us why a mere mortal holds a tail of the same descendants of Sun Wukong? Is he also another one of his descendants? Vishnu asked. I'm afraid not, Vishnu. That boy is something far vaster and worse than a simple descendant of Sun Wukong. Something much greater, something more life-threatening than that immortal monkey. Riser, Indra, nor I could properly subdue him when he gets serious. That brings me to the next topic I like to bring up. Brahma. With yours and Vishnu's guidance and blessings, we could make him a special member of the Tror Gods. Shiva elucidated. Everyone shot their eyes towards Shiva's direction with the words he just dropped. What? When did you start getting these weird ideas? Brahma questioned. Shiva does have a point. This boy is remarkable in so many ways that I can't even get a clear read on him. His determination and unearthly powers are keeping him up on his 2 feet. If it was anyone else, they would have been turned to dust a long time ago. Vishnu explained. Listen, Brahma. If all 3 of us couldn't bring him down to a knee, then what does that entail? With him joining us as a disciple of the 3 Tror Gods, no one would dare go against us. The fallen angels would be our ally in this, since they are tethered to him, as they hold more loyalty and respect for BROLY than they do for anyone else. With him under our wing, don't you think he could lead Hinduism in a direction that could unlock all the secrets we have been dying to unlock? Brahma let the silence fill up his thoughts. He had to agree with Shiva and all of his points. Seeing the boy with power that hasn't been truly tapped into has an enormous path ahead of him. His future is a path where even primordial entities wish to achieve with their wealth of knowledge and power, but lack certain qualities to do so. After seeing what this boy could do, a scary thought popped in: if he were to achieve a form that surpassed the heavens themselves. I think something's going on with him. Vishnu pointed out. BROLY's physique began to change drastically. His height grew, his hair shot up in a spiked form, and his muscles grew twice in size. He was tapping into the true power of the Saiyans as he entered his wrath state that changed the tides instantly for the Tror Gods. Clenching his teeth and suppressing the rage of the great ape within him the best he can, but he wasn't able to hold the burning rage of the great ape as the beast within released all of its suppressed anger and let out the roar of a lifetime. His ki exploded all around him, which was powering him up to lengths that no supernatural entity could endure. BROLY kept his focus on the task at hand, but he had a responsibility to uphold. He didn't want to make Penemu afraid of him, he didn't want to let this side of him take the driver's seat while he was being suppressed, and most of all, he needed to use this power against Frieza when the time comes. With him maintaining his power, he grabbed hold of the collar around his neck and started to tug on it. The collar noticed it was trying to be tampered with or be deactivated, so it began to let out an electric current that was engulfing his ki. Broly let out a painful shattering scream as the electricity was becoming more harmful and worse to the point where his eyes were gonna pop out any second. He fell to his knees while losing his strength slowly. His mind was becoming blank, empty, distorted, but the unyielding and undying burning rage of his Saiyan heritage along with the great ape beast within him was keeping him somewhat awake. His mind started to replay moments of his past from the time when he was being sent away to Earth to the time where he made Azazel, Barakiel, and Penemu. Disappointed with all of his failures. All the times he felt like he failed Azazel and Penemu was like a hot knife going through his heart that broke his spirit and courage. Witnessing Frieza ending his homeworld and his family filled his heart with malice to the very brim, but when landing on Earth and meeting Azazel, Penemu, and Barakiel who took him in and raised him like it was their own son made that malice subside like it never even existed in the first place over the progressing years whilst being with them. Everything they have done for him was a gift that he is eternally grateful for and can't even begin to imagine how to repay them. So when hearing that he lost control and almost harmed the woman he cared about created despondency in his heart that truly devastated him. He had enough of that. He couldn't take this feeling of uselessness anymore. He was a Saiyan that held the strength to overcome any obstacle that came his way. He knew that his race was the ultimate warrior race, so becoming null and useless to his great ape powers was a sign of weakness in his eyes and the entirety of the Saiyan race. This had to change because no matter how he looked at it, he was still a warrior of the ultimate warrior race. As this realization was kicking in, something just flipped inside of him as he was starting to thrive off that uselessness to overcome his obstacles. His Saiyan spirit began to shine bright as that malice that was locked away that Frieza has bestowed upon him for what he has done was finally clawing its way out as only one thing was starting to be clear in his mind. Something inside of him just snapped that formed the most wicked and disturbing smile on him. The gods felt like they were staring at a demon, which was spawned from Trihexa than that kind and innocent boy previously. With all of the strength and willpower, his mind jump-started as he ripped the shock collar in two before unleashing a power like no other that turned the sky dark. Penemu and Shiva were shocked to their very cores to see that the collar around his neck was ripped off by his own doing as it was finally gone. Penemu was relieved to see that thing gone from his neck as it reminded her of a locked-up dog every time she looked at that thing. She was about to burst into tears, but the energy that was being thrown around was keeping her from crying. His key alone was eradicating the barrier. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. Shiva began to laugh like a maniac from this outstanding performance he was witnessing. So this is your true power. It's finally here. It's finally been set free. Who knew such a gentle boy could be this terrifying, but this is finally what I wanted, BROLY. Shiva's holy light that engulfed him eviscerated the entire place to specks of dust. Brahma. This power. This world-shattering power is far greater than Great Red, Ophis, and Trihexa combined. Vishnu stated. Broly's veins were beginning to manifest across his arms and face. I'm coming for you, Frieza, he said with malic intent before letting out another roar. The three Trimurti gods stayed back as they watched his power become something else entirely. They were beginning to see a great ape afterimage behind him that overlapped his roars together. Incredible. Shiva vocalized. Brahma and Vishnu didn't want to wait around anymore, so they instantaneously materialized on both sides of his face where they drove their fists right into both of his cheeks. The attacks did absolutely nothing that made the both of them incredibly bewildered. Broly gave them a wicked smile before grabbing the back of their heads and slammed the both of them together before separating them and crashing their heads to the ground where he dragged their heads across the ground from point A to point B. The two gods were released just to be hammered down by his giant fists that made their blood gush out of their mouths. The two of them quickly rolled out of the way after receiving a powerful blow to fly back up into the air. Shiva with all his power being released gave a simple flick with his finger that shot out a godly gust of wind which sent Broly flying across mountains upon mountains with Mach 10 speeds. The onlookers were amazed by Shiva's performance. No doubt about it, he was called the god of destruction for a reason. Seeing what he just did to BROLY showed the sheer power gap between them and him. It was like God himself was hovering over a colony of ants in which he could simply touch them with a finger and exterminate their entire species. Something felt odd with Shiva's display of power when he let loose. They noticed that his eyes were gleaming with divinity, but on his forehead, they saw a single Hindu scripture engraved to his forehead. This prompted the other two gods to do the same, as all three had different Hindu scriptures engraved to their foreheads. God of protection, God of creation, and God of destruction. These three supreme deities together could end reality itself if they so wished. They are the heavens themselves. Indra said with his arms crossed while pinching his arm from the amount of divinity being thrown around. Rainier, Kalawarner, and Middle dropped to their knees in a paralyzed state. Penemu was on her knees as well, but she wasn't paralyzed like the others. Lord Indra, just how powerful are these Trimurti gods? Penemu asked. I'm not sure myself because I never have experienced their power to the fullest. I can tell you this though. Vishnu is one of the three supreme deities and is the supreme god of Vaishnavism. One of the three principal denominations of Hinduism. Some say that Brahma, which is the god of creation, was born from a lotus flower from Vishnu's navel. Vishnu is a protector, the protector of the created universe. If you want, you can see him as a supporting role. Indra elucidated. What exactly are you getting at? She asked. Everything needs balance in the universe. Even the gods themselves. So if you remove a very important piece that holds everything together, what do you think will happen? If Vishnu is to be removed, then dash. Then Shiva and Brahma will have a difficult time keeping up. But you see, all three of them keep each other stable. With creation comes destruction, and with creation comes preservation. What's the point of creating something that will instantly just die? Shiva, Brahma, and Vishnu are the pillars of each other. Indra's smile became nervous at the thought of their powers combined. They are life and death itself. The sound barrier was broken as BROLY came flying back, where he drove his fist right into Vishnu's face. The impact of the attack sent him towards one of the mountains before Brahma cast a ball of divine light in his hand and blasted it point blank in BROLY's face. The blast tore a hole within the reality where the entirety of the place was becoming unstable, but Shiva wanted to enjoy this moment by teleporting above him and coming down like a missile with his fist getting driven right in BROLY's face. They touched the ground where the whole area exploded. BROLY felt the pain flow through his body, so he grabbed Shiva by the leg and began flailing him around like some hammer before finally releasing him into the air. BROLY then proceeded to create two balls of condensed energy in his hands, in which he began to fly right up to him. Both Shiva and Brahma tried to counter this, but he managed to slam the two balls of energy onto both of them. He took them for a ride before exploding the ball of energy. Shiva and Brahma were sent in two different directions as all three gods were separated from each other. BROLY took this chance to focus his attention on Vishnu by opening his mouth as wide as possible, where a massive green ball of concentrated energy formed until he finally decided to shoot the energy wave out his mouth. It was coming straight down onto Vishnu, but Vishnu needed to respond to this by manipulating time and space, as was creating some odd energy in his hands. Godly energy poured all around him, where enough magic was formed to the point where he shot back an energy wave of his own. The two blasts collided with one another that exploded upon impact. Vishnu took the opportunity to fly right up to him to drive his knee right into his face. The blow connected that just seemed to piss off BROLY even more, but the pain was still visible as this wasn't the outcome he was hoping for. BROLY took hold of his arm to push him away before pulling him in to drive his own knee in his gut. Saliva poured out like some water fountain. BROLY was beginning to show his merciless side that was bringing out the real Saiyan within him. Raising his foot into the air, he gave him the biggest big boot of a lifetime. Vishnu felt all his bodily organs stop working for about 5 seconds until they started to work once more. You're one tough opponent I have faced, let's just see how you stand up to this. Divine Retribution. From the sky, a colossal shadow engulfed the entire place. Broly looked up and saw a fist coming down at him that was bigger than all of the mountains combined in the whole world. Divine aura was wrapping itself around the fist like some plated armor, but within the fist, Broly saw a person in the center of it. As it got closer, he realized that Shiva was inside of the fist where he was pack-a-punching the divine fist to deal quadruple the amount of damage. Eventually, the fist came down right onto him like some holy judgment. Indra had to take the fallen angels further away as the explosion was ultimately beyond any other explosion as a bright flash of divine light appeared with a quick gust of wind that sliced anything in half before a heavenly shattering kaboom was heard. The sound was so loud that anyone who wasn't being protected by divine protection would lose their hearing. On Earth, it sounded like a thunderstorm was being brewed with constant booms of thunder. All three gods reconvened as blood and sweat were all over their arms and faces. Exhaustion was taking in with the amount of divine energy they used. Mount Kailash was completely in ruins with fire spreading across the highlands. You haven't changed a bit, Shiva. You still hold that same ruthless strength I felt many lifetimes ago. Vishnu said. Now is not the time to chatter, he's still alive. How? What is he made out of? Vishnu asked. Broly removed all the debris off of him before slowly flying up into the air. Is that the best you can do? Broly asked while extending his hand out as a green bubble surrounded the entirety of the area before it began to shrink to the point it was just a small ball inside of Broly's hand. Brahma's eyes widened when he saw the ruthless look he was giving them like he knew what he was about to do. Generating enough divine energy, he began to levitate as he crossed his legs and put his hands to the side with his thumbs pressing against his pointer fingers. Shiva and Vishnu noticed he was beginning to enter into a meditative state. Vishnu followed the same path Brahma was doing as their energy began to flow into a single stream. Shiva realized what was happening, so he clapped his hands together that sprung out multiple arms out of his back. Closing his eyes for only a few seconds before springing them wide open which created the whole sky above them to twirl around like some tornado was being formed. Pulling his hands apart, multiple magical elements were all conglomerate in each hand. Shiva. I believe it's time we use the hidden technique of the Trimurti power. Brahma said. Shiva already was setting up the attack. Brahma and Vishnu started to transfer their divine energy to Shiva which was fueling him like some nuclear bomb. All the arms reached around him to start pouring all the elemental powers into a singular blast. Broly clenched his fist with the ball of energy and moved his hand to his chest before bringing it back where he opened up his hand to release the ball of energy. The small ball of energy was slowly traversing its way down to the three of them. Shiva gathered enough power before he shot a beam emission right at the ball of energy that Broly released. As soon as Shiva's attack hit the ball, it enlarged itself into a small planetoid. The two energy attacks were clashing with one another, but Broly had different plans as he began to create another ball of ki in his hand where he decided to send it right into the enormous ball of concentrated energy. Shiva took a look into the future and saw the outcome of this beam struggle in which he poured every last drop of power he had within him by sapping both Vishnu's and Brahma's magic. The divine magic wave he was shooting grew quadruple in size. When Broly's second ball of energy entered the huge ball of energy, it instantly went off which erupted the whole plains and highlands into scorched earth. Both divine and saiyan powers couldn't contain the entirety of massive widespread destruction. The whiplash came crawling in when the huge burst of air hit them before the explosion sent them crashing to the floor. DMN. To think power like this existed, but that isn't even the worst part. If the three of us can't contain him, I can't even begin to imagine how we would hold up to the four that are coming to Earth. Shiva said while getting up as he brushed away the blood that was trickling down his face. The Hindu scriptures that were engraved on their foreheads disappeared as they felt that they were reaching their end. Broly stood back up and began to walk on over to the three of them. Every step left an imprint in the ground, but eventually, He arrived at their side of the field as he stopped in front of the three of them, where his focus was directly on Shiva as his hulking body towered over him. Broly's shadow covered him entirely as he stared down at his teacher. Another smile appeared to show that he was in complete control of the situation. Something was wrong, since he knew Broly never acted this way. Diving into his mind, Shiva quickly saw why he was acting this way. His mind was in turmoil as the only thing on his mind was Frieza. He wasn't that raging beast not in control, he was that ruthless warrior that every Saiyan was, the way he portrayed it to everyone. Locking away his hate and rage for an individual for 13 years would eventually be released. In Broly's eyes, he was seeing everyone as Frieza. Pushing Broly to break his limits was one of Shiva's greatest accomplishments, as he finally got to use his powers that no other being could. Both of them achieved at least something, since Broly's hate for Frieza is keeping him in check, but not to the point where he recognizes friend or foe. I have lived long empty years for so long that brought no joy or entertainment until now. You brought that spark back to me, and I have to thank you. Just for that, I'll reward you on behalf of the three of us. Broly. You pass. He said while giving him a grin. I'll squash you like the bug you are. Broly yelled out while clenching his fist and bringing it down like a spear. Shiva grabbed the other two gods before creating a bright flash that blinded him and retreating to Indra's location. Everyone was startled by their sudden appearance. What's going on, Lord Shiva? Is Broly going feral? Penemu asked. Quite the opposite, actually. Broly is in complete control of the whole situation. The only problem is that his mind reverted to that cold-hearted, ruthless person he was before he met all of you. Her mind was having a strong time processing that. She looked out towards the highlands where he was standing on top of a mountain that was engulfed with flames, with a look she hasn't seen on him since he was only a child. Lord Shiva, how did this happen? She asked as her voice sounded like it was going to break. Locking him up for most of his life with the memories, he had started formulating feelings in him that were negative, along with the hate he has for this Frieza. It grew larger and larger until it finally decided to pop. Thoughts of you seeing scared of him, Azazel seeing him as a failure, and the greatest one of them all. Seeing you killed by his own hands. What we're seeing now is the Broly that was raised on his homeland and not the one that was raised on Earth. Penemu's hands were shaking that such thoughts were clouding his mind. She couldn't process that all this time, he was holding back this much for such a long time, that he finally snapped. This wasn't the Broly she grew to love, but the Saiyan that had only one goal in mind. Is there a way to bring him back? She asked with a trembling voice. We can calm his mind if I, Brahma, and Vishnu were to get a chance. His psyche will be different. He will be the same Broly that is kind-hearted and caring, but with his repressed feelings coming to life, there will be slight changes to his personality, because he will still be the ruthless man you're seeing now. Shiva explained. Will he be a danger to us? Penemu asked with her bangs covering her eyes. Not to you or the people he grew up with. When I dove into his mind, I could still see that he holds you, Azazel, and Barakiel with the utmost love and respect. He just doesn't see clearly right now to snap back to reality. I believe you have the power to truly subdue him, Penemu. You can bring him back. What the three of us can do is put his mind to rest while you have his attention on you. Her eyes instantly became serious before shooting out her wings and flying straight to Broly after hearing that bit of information. Broly felt the presence of someone coming close to him, so he turned around to see who it was, where he saw Penemu flying right at him. Another opponent who wants to fight? By all means, come. She didn't budge whatsoever as she stopped inches away from him before grabbing hold of his cheeks. My sweet boy. I have failed to recognize the pain you were holding all this time, so that is why I'll carry that pain for the rest of my life, as I have failed you. When you awake, let me shoulder the pain you have been keeping locked up. But I want you to remember only this for now. I'll always love you. With those words, she crashed her lips to his to the point where she could feel the bone from the amount of force she inserted into this embrace. This surprised the big Saiyan. His mind went blank as it was starting to get flooded with memories of Penemu. Shiva, Brahma, and Vishnu, and everyone else reached their position in which they formed a triangular formation. They clapped their hands together that created a seal underneath Broly that was starting to loosen the muscles in his body. His monstrous physique was reclining until he returned to his original self. Their NTMT moment continued until Penemu ran out of breath. Broly saw his vision blur as he slowly started to fall on his back until he was fully asleep. Penemu caught his head so it wouldn't hit the ground, where she soon rested his head on her lap while caressing his hair gently. Shiva, Brahma, and Vishnu recovered and dusted themselves off before looking at the area around them. "I officially announce my defeat," Brahma said out loud. "Shiva has found a diamond in the rough. I am surprised that the fallen angels have kept such a beast locked away for such a long time," he said. "I agree with Brahma," Vishnu said. Penemu looked at all three of them until her attention turned towards Brahma. "I have a proposition for him that I would like to ask him, but seeing that you're his guardian, allow me to ask you then. I would like if he were to become the fourth member of the Tror Gods, although, it wouldn't be called Tror anymore." Everyone felt like their hearts just stopped. Time itself appeared to go in reverse as the heavens themselves were bowing down before him. Indra couldn't believe it, he wouldn't believe it. He wanted to let out his rage, but after what he just watched, there was no way that he could take him on after battling the three Tror Gods. It showed him just how far the gap difference between him and Broly was. The veins on his face and arms were popping out from the frustration that a mortal like himself could become the fourth member of the Tror Gods. Penemu jumped in. "Lord Brahma, do you know what you're asking? If he joins you, wouldn't that just mean that he will be a part of the Hindu pantheon? Lady Penemu, you have it all wrong. He can choose to be with anyone he so wishes, but what we want is to make him the foundation, the pillar of the Hindu pantheon. If he does accept it, then we will welcome you all with open arms, as any friend of Broly's is a friend of ours. Over the years, there has been no one who was able to take on the three of us at the same time with such tenacity. You want to establish an alliance between the Hindu pantheon and the fallen angels?" she asked with a confused look. "That is what I would like to do. After the events that just occurred, we need to stabilize him if something like this were to occur somewhere else. With our help and your guidance, there is the possibility that we could expel that sinister side of his. But before you go and rest up, the three of us would like to give Broly a gift that will help him for the coming days to come," Brahma said. Penemu nodded her head as the three gods moved closer to him. Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva put 2 fingers on his chest that created a bright glow to appear as his body began to contort in agonizing pain. "What did you just do?" Penemu yelled out. "Do not worry. We just inscribed a few sacred Hindu texts that we have written long ago onto his ribs. You can call them blessings if you like. I have given him the ability to synchronize his mind with the surrounding life that is around him that will help enlighten his path when he disciplines his mind in the future. Vishnu has blessed upon him a fortitude of a prolonged life, the life of the gods if you wish to say. As for Shiva, he imparted all of his teachings and techniques that are inscribed on his ribs." "Imparting your teachings? You're really handing him the keys to your life and kingdom," she said. "It's a small token of my gratitude for letting me experience a battle of a lifetime. Besides, he won't be able to just use my techniques as he so wishes. That's what Brahma's gift is for. To cultivate a mind where it's clear of evil and destructive thoughts. My abilities don't need to be used for destruction as they can be used for other things," Shiva reassured her. Brahma tried his best to keep himself on his feet after what the explosion did to him. "With the fierce battle we just had, I have come to realize that many forms of powerful beings come from many different places with their own ideals. This boy you cherish so much has talent that can be refined into the finest gourds that the world has never seen. As the three of us that uphold the upkeep, creation, and destruction of the world and universe, BROLY could inherit Mount Kailash in our primordial essence if he were to walk among us until we transcend to more prominent heights. He elucidated the information which caused Penemu to be bewildered at such shocking information. Indra shoved his hands in his pockets as he disclosed some concerns. Are we going to accommodate every fallen angel here? That wouldn't sit well with the others. We could have a civil war here soon if things keep stretching out this far. Indra said with a big smile. Penemu's eyes narrowed at those words. A conflict between gods was no simple matter as it could create massive amounts of unwanted attention from different factions. Lord Indra, you should know that if a civil war is going to break out, you should know the dangers of what is to come after if such events were to occur. She tried explaining. Indra's attention shifted to her. Of course, Lady Penemu. A civil war could eventually grow into a full-blown world war with all the factions partaking in the fun. BROLY's talents won't be disregarded, I'll let that settle within your head. Surzex and Ajuka have their eyes on the boy after the little stunt he did with Riser. If the Satans know of him, I can guarantee you that the other DMN gods have caught wind of him. Hell, the Norse gods already know since we just had a meeting Thor not too long ago. I'm quite aware of the situation we're in, Lord Indra. But if such a war was to happen, whose side are you joining? Her remark made him close the distance between him and her as they were inches away from each other. You should watch your tongue, fallen angel. You'll never know if someone will rip it out when you least expect it. Shiva saw enough of this as he intervened. I think that's enough out of the both of you. We have much pressing matters to attend to than some civil war. But before that, bring BROLY inside of my palace. I'll have my servants treat his injuries. Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva used the remainder of their energy to repair the damages that were on Shiva's home. Everything returned to its original state before Brahma and Vishnu left to go meditate in peace to recover their powers. Shiva crossed his hands behind his back. Please take a seat anywhere you like, I'll have some people bring out some food for you. In the meantime, let me explain some. Shiva's eyes widened like never before as everything he was preparing for just came flying out the window. The vision he saw of BROLY's mind and the future that is about to happen is knocking right at their front door. The long-awaited invasion of the Saiyans along with the demise of the planet is coming. Humanity's extinction is on the horizon. This can't be happening. Not now. Shiva said as his teeth were clenched to their very cores. He exhausted his powers trying to fight off BROLY's power with Vishnu and Brahma. It showed him that he needed to become much stronger, but with 4 more Saiyans arriving on Earth, there was just no way in God's green earth he would be able to take them on with the power he had left. Lady Penemu, stay here and treat BROLY until he recovers. Where are you going? She asked with confusion. Shiva lowered his head. I'm going to go see Great Red for a bit. With those words, he walked out and left Mount Kailash to enter the dimension gap. In the middle of nowhere. 4 pods came rushing down from the stratosphere at incredible speeds. The pods crash-landed onto the ground before the pods began to slowly open up where 4 Saiyans exited their pods and made their presence. Prince Vegeta gave the place a scan to see if any of Frieza's men followed them where he quickly relinquished his investigation after noticing that they weren't followed before speaking up to his squad. This is Earth. Whatever, this will have to do for now until we can annihilate that bstrd Frieza. Hiding away like cowards makes my BLD boil. We're Saiyans, not cowards. Nappa said. Vegeta clenched his fist at that remark. What more can we do? We'll just have to think of a way to hit him where it really hurts. That is why. I'll never let him have the last laugh, not while I'm still alive. This pisses me off. What does he take me for? Does he not know who he is dealing with? Veins started to pop on his forehead as his rage was starting to show. I am Prince Vegeta, the prince of all Saiyans, and I'll detach that butt's head from his body for taking away what was rightfully mine. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for more such crossovers. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Liquid's Wrath on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.